Okay, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Welcome to the weekly Halaqah from Heart C. I'm going to hand it over to the Sheikh in a minute. Just before we do, just reminding everybody to book on to the August residential retreat we have in Gloucester. It's a 2-day retreat with the overnight stay in a accommodation, indoor accommodation, or you can camp if you prefer. Lots of tailor-made requirements, inshallah. So please get in touch with me and if you're interested soon, inshallah. Okay, over to you, Sheikh. Sheikh, you can start, inshallah.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam, Rasulullah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We'll continue with the weekly halaqah, and we will continue looking at Nazm of the Quran, inshallah, and the realities of energy, sound, and attunement. The Quran uses sound, the Quran uses visuals, the Quran uses movie effects, the Quran uses wordplay, the Quran uses human psychology, subhanallah. The Quran uses rhetoric to target and influence the deep inner psyche of the listener. And so we're going to continue. It's a massive journey, but we're going to continue tonight just by looking at some ayat of the Quran, which will be able to bring all of this alive. And then once we begin to hear the beautiful recitation correctly, then it will affect us just as it did with those around the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. And sound is crucial. The Quran was revealed to be recited, and in the end of times that's which we are in, sound is crucial. We've said before, the universe started with sound, kun, started with a kaf or a noon in the Arabic language, the noon, which is a vibrational noon, and we know that the universe will end with sound. And the first mission given to the Prophet ﷺ was to recite on them, yatlu alayhim. So many accounts in relation to sound, how the Quraysh, we learn how they used to come out. A few used to come out of their homes to listen to what the Prophet was reciting. We've mentioned before about how, and it's recorded in the Quran, where the jinn were on the way back, when the Prophet was on the way back from Taif, where when he was reciting, they heard and they wanted to listen to this sound. So sound is very important and opens up deep portholes into the study of tajweed and much more deeper Islamic sciences as well. So the Quran and the use of sound power. Just move on to the first slide, please. Surah Zalzalaha, subhanallah. So each letter, each ayat, each word, each surah is crucial and has its own sound power, sound effect, okay, within the word, which enhances the meaning portrayed through the letter. Okay, so let's just go through that again. So each letter is an ayat. Each letter has its own sound power, sound effect within the word, which enhances the meaning portrayed through the letter. And that's one of the key reasons why we go back and we return to the sit spots, which is the foundations of the principles of Heart C, where we're getting you to, and where we should be doing it ourselves, to not just to look at the creation, but it's all about sound as well. Remember, ultimately, at the end of the day, the sound power is connected to the qalb, and it will only be the qalb as-salim which will guarantee us success when we are in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we can learn more about sound power and energy and sound and attunement, even science today, through cymatic understanding. It's showing you now how, through the vibrational sounds, that we are surrounded by these beautiful geometrical patterns. And the patterns that we talk about as well are in the principles of nature, and how the sound, the energy, it rises and also goes through vortices. And we covered some of that in relation to the cosmic tawaf. And this is very key in understanding the design language of nature. Just look at the last part of this ayat, ahmalahum. And what we're going to focus on is this ha, okay? We're going to look at one letter, the ha in the Arabic alphabet. Ha is used for fear. Ha is used for emergency. Ha is used for anger. That day, the people would depart separated into categories to be shown the result of their deeds. This abrupt ending, ahmalahum, which shows anger, this abrupt ending because of their actions, because of their deeds in this life. And we're not going to understand this relationship to sound power of the Quran if we're not hearing the recitation of the Quran correctly. And that's why the first mission to the Prophet was to recite on them, and on them, meaning that they also understood the Arabic language. But what they were hearing, as they said, was something which was like magic. And magic you would normally see, but this is what they were hearing. So one of the key letters that we're going to look at tonight in the Arabic language is the letter Ha, and its effect on the ayats. Move on to the next slide. So this letter Ha, the shape of the letter, okay, shapes as well. When we look at Nazm of the Quran, looks at coherence, order, structure, symmetry, design. That's just the Arabic language within the Quran, and how it mimics exactly the natural order as well. Order, coherence, shape, design, and symmetry. This is a key letter, one of the key letters that we're going to focus on tonight. Probably the only letter that we're going to focus on tonight. But its significance when it talks about anger, it talks about this emergency and this fear element. Move on to the next slide. And the ha, remember, where does it come? When we look at tajweed, it comes from the depth of the chest. In relation to the letter ha, which shows mercy in Surah Al-Fatiha, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. It shows mercy. It has a soothing effect. Whereas the ayats that we're going to show you tonight, we started off with ahmalahum, very direct, very sudden, and short and sharp, okay, compared to the other half. Move on to the next slide. So let's look at another ayat, Surah Al-Marid. They will be shown each other. The criminal will wish that he could be ransomed from the punishment of that day by his children. Now just look at the last word. Ibai, Ibani, Ibani. Now, when this is pronounced on the inside of the chest, it is the criminal, out of fear, will wish that he could be ransomed from the punishment by his own children. That's how much this fear will be in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's there just in that last letter. His children. Imani. So what we're trying to do today is just to try and focus. We're looking at, in fact, always connecting in relation to energy, sound, and attunement and vibration. But the sound, the Quran, subhanAllah, when it's recited, the effect that it can have on that person that understands, and it can have an effect on that person that does not understand. This is exactly why that first mission given to the Prophet, Yatlu alayhim, whether they understand or not, just keep reciting. Don't teach, just keep reciting. So this ayat here, ayat 11, this ayat emphasizes fear of extremity on the day of judgment, subhanAllah, just by that ha. So, subhanAllah. Let's just go on to the next slide. Okay. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, seize him and shackle him. Khuduhu faghulu. See how the ha comes up how many times? Twice. Faghulu. Khuduhu faghulu comes up twice. See that the ha is being repeated to increase this element of fear, extremity, used to emphasize extreme fear. So we're looking at shapes of letters. We're looking at placement of letters, in placement of words, and the sound, and where it's obviously coming from within the body, which is the science of tajweed. Go on to the next slide, and we're going to see it continually now repeat. Then into hellfire, drive him. ثُمَّ الْجَحِيمَ صَلُّهُ. Again at the end, there's another ha. So seize him, shackle him. Then into the hellfire, drive him. So this increase, emphasis on extreme fear. The difference between the ha here and the ha as in Surah Al-Fatiha with mercy. Go on to the next slide. Then it will continue. Right through to the end again, then into a chain whose length is 70 cubits. Insert him. Fasluku again. Then onto that chain. So we can see here, these three ayats are increasing, emphasizing this fear element just because of one single letter. And it is that person that has an understanding of sound with the energy, with the attunement, with the vibration, that when they are hearing the Quran and when the Qari, the reciter is reciting, they would know what is taking place because the imagery is coming alive in front of them. And the sound will change. And it's all to do with high frequency, low frequency. And what we're looking at the moment is low frequency, is to put that fear in you, inside you, to make you think what can happen. And notice as well where these surahs are coming in relation to the Quran. Go on to the next slide. Let's go on to another surah, Surah Al-Qari'ah. Al-Qari'ah, the striking calamity. The striking calamity. This is from ayat 1 to ayat 3. Go on to the next ayat, please. Al-Qari'ah. Mal-Qari'ah. Look, okay, carry on. وَمَا أَدْرَكَ مَا-الْقَارِعَةُ. Okay. Look at those 3 ayats again. Look at the relationship. Look at the pattern. Okay. And the ending. How the ha keeps coming up. It's building you up. This, it's given you an image. It's given you a picture, which is describing a person who is now right next to the hellfire. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. Waiting to go in to the hellfire. And that ha, which we see, al-qari'ah, right through to those first 3 ayats. Mal-qari'ah. وَمَا أَدْرَكَ مَا-الْقَارِعَةُ. Picture it. Describing a person right next to the edge of Jahannam. And this ha at the end, it's short, it's sharp, it's from the deep of the deep darkness of the chest. And it's emphasizing the power of fear in this imagery. And this is one of the important aspects of the Quran. Okay, how the Quran brings an image alive, it creates a picture. Think of the effect that it had on the Quraysh, that the effect that the sound of the Quran had even on those jinn. And that short story of the jinn pausing on the way back from that they were just traveling back and they heard and they stopped, that it's so important, that story, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put that into the. So this had this repeated fear. The letters in the Arabic language, dear brothers and sisters, they all have distinct sounds. It's not just alif, ba, ta, tha, jim, ha, ka. And this is the trouble, how we're taught. We just go through a monotone. But when we are reciting, when we hear, how many times do we hear the stories of when people who are non-Muslim and they go on a holiday and they hear the call of the azan? Likewise for me now, nearly 25 years ago, when I heard the call of the azan, how when that is recited in the most beautiful way, okay, it is an invitation. And so many people now come into the fold of Islam because of that beautiful recitation. But sadly today, when in many massages we hear the call of the prayer, it's not sounded in a nice way at all. So the letters in the Arabic all have distinct sounds, which impact the meaning, as we've just been describing so far. A thick sounding letter or word, dear brothers and sisters, okay, carries a thick, deep meaning. A lightly pronounced letter, like we gave the example, ha, will create a light meaning. For example, the letter sheen, not seen, sheen with the 3 dots. This is a dispersing sound effect. So every time we see the letter sheen in the Quran, then it should connect us, okay, this is going to be a light meaning, and it is a dispersing sound effect. So the lessons on recitation of the Quran will give, and in a way, give it an experience of a hypnotic effect, like it did on those who were around the Prophet ﷺ when they were hearing the recitation of the Quran, and gives an overwhelming sense of emotion to those that understand or to those that don't. Go on to the next slide. So let's relook at the word choice, and we went through some of the word choice before. Can we just quickly, I just forgot, can we just go back to the ayats on Surah Halaqah? Go back again. Yeah, okay. So we looked and we covered a number of these ayats, and particularly in relation to this surah. Go and visit this surah in your own time, and although we've just looked at a few of these ayats, look at this surah from ayat 1 all the way through to ayat 32. Subhanallah. All the words end with the letter Ha. And it is implying again this journey, it's a rhyme. Okay, it's an image, it's an imagery. It's implying severity in accordance with the severe and the violent sounds, which is from ayat 1 right through to ayat 32, which is being produced from the depth inside the body of punishment, which is about to come. That's the whole theme, which is important message, as I say, when we learn about the nazm of the Quran, structure, appearance, equals including shape, the sound of the letters, and we're going to start to cover that over the weeks, looking at different letters, what they mean, start to penetrate each letter, which is also an ayat. Okay, so if we just go back to the current slide and look at word choice. Go on to the next slide, please. Okay, so Al-Rum ayat 21. We're going to look at 3 words here. If we just look and read the ayat. And of his signs. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ, of his signs, is that he created for you from yourselves mates that you may find tranquility in them. And he placed between you affection and mercy. Indeed, in that are signs for people who give thought. Yeah. يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. Tafakkur. Okay, that we often talk about. 3 key words that come up: repose, affection, mercy, in relation to a husband and wife. And among his signs is that he created you. Now, we haven't got time because to really, and we're just trying to look at sound and not sound much here, but in fact, word choice. But this is a bigger subject because we would need to then look at the ayats that are coming before and the ayats which are coming after. But there's so much more to unpack in these ayats, but we haven't got time to go into. That's why I'm just trying to focus now. We covered a little bit about sound, and we're going to now just return to wordplay, which all fits under that nazm of the Quran. Now, one of the key words here, which is the last word on the first line, litaskunu ilayha. Taskunu, that you may find repose, that you may find tranquility, that you may find calmness. Now notice the taskunu, that on the waw is a mud. So this sukoon, this tranquility and calmness. If we go to the second line, then look in and we will see the word mawadda. Mawadda means affection. It means love. It means passion. Okay. And then the next word is rahmah. mercy. Haven't we connected the ha already in Surah Al-Fatiha? So we're looking at repose just in this ayat, affection and mercy within a marriage. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses these key words in relation to a marriage. And the most important thing, the lesson in relation to this ayat and the word choice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has used, is that the first word that comes up is the sakun, tranquility and calmness, which is key and essential for the whole of humanity, peace and happiness, but vital in relation to a husband and wife. Absolutely vital, and vital then for them when children come into the marriage. And then how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then uses mawadda, okay, which is the affection, which is the love and the passion. And in a newly couple who are married, generally, when a new couple come together, that mawadda, that sort of that passion, that desire, that decreases after approximately 2 years. Then what do you have left? Then you begin to get to know your partner. That is in where the sakun, that taskunu, that tranquility and calmness comes in to it, backed up by mercy. And that's why in Islam we focus so much on the foundations of the family. But look how subhanAllah, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses these key words, which is to develop a strong relationship between the husband and the wife, which is the backbone to the whole family. Next slide. So let's return to the universal human psyche. Go on to the next slide. Okay. This surah, let's go through it in stage by stage. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this surah, in these few ayats, is going to target the universal human psyche. And it's about the description of Jannah. It's about the description of paradise and how the words here, the ayah, target the inner psyche of the audience of all places and all times. Okay. Fi jannatil aliyah. Fi jannatin aliyah. Okay. So ayat 10, meaning in an elevated garden. Okay, so this is a description of Jannah. This is our whole purpose. We're asking for Jannah in Surah Al-Fatiha. We're asking for Jannah. That's in Surah Al-Fatiha. And we want a high elevated garden. I said to you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala targets the universal human psyche. A few weeks ago, we looked at the Arabs and in relation to the horses, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala focused on the Arabs to get their attention. And humans, we like beauty. We love beauty. Okay. We want the good things in life, as long as it's halal. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we use words to target the inner sight of all audiences, of all times and places. That we as humans, we want high gardens, we want luxurious gardens, okay? And when we go on a holiday to a hotel, when we go and purchase a house, we're always looking for a view. We're looking for high viewpoints, okay? And we'll see, if we're looking for a house in the estate window, they even know this psyche as well, okay? That they will show you a picture, beautiful high viewpoints, a beautiful high garden. When you're looking at a hotel brochure and you're looking at going away somewhere, the hotel with a beautiful view, okay? And the house with a view, that the hotel with a view, okay? That safari with a view, an elevated garden. That's going to drive us. Yeah, we want to now move into Jannah. Whereas the opposite, the people of hell, is the downward spiral. Okay, go on to the next slide. لَتَسْمَعُوا فِيهَا لَغْوِيَةً, where they will hear no unsuitable speech. La, negating that you hear no unsuitable speech. How many people? Let's go back to what we just learned in relation to the words, in relation how Allah Ta'ala deals with the husband and the wife. The importance of sukoon, tranquility and peace. Where today, so many households are fighting each other. They're at war, the husband and wife, they're going through divorce, and the children are succumb to all of the battles that's taking place between husband and wife. And that's just within the Muslim family. What about those that are living together that aren't even married? Subhanallah. All of this that is taking place in our society today. But in Jannah, where they will hear no unsuitable speech, no bad language, the behavior will be absolutely beautiful. Okay, but I say then you compare it to those ayats that we've just been through. So see again how Allah Ta'ala is using these ayats to really penetrate the human side. Okay, and you can see it. I said I've given you the examples that we all want beauty, we all want a house with a view, we want to overlook the gardens, we want to overlook the beautiful scenery. So this is inbuilt within us, and there's nothing wrong with it. And Allah Ta'ala knows that, because that's why He's trying to bring Jannah, the image of Jannah, alive, because that's what we want at the end of the day. And that's what we're striving for in many ways in this world, which is no problem, because in the dua, Rabbana atina fid dunya, oh Allah, give us the good of this world before, as well as the hereafter, as long as it's from the halal source. Next slide. Fiha aynun jariyah, within its flowing spring. So here, aynun, okay, means a water spring, and jariyah means flowing water. We've got two things. We've got water spring and we've got flowing water. Again, see how Allah Ta'ala is trying to connect to the human side. So Allah Ta'ala is giving us an image here through this ayat that there's a high garden, okay, that we want to move into, a beautiful high garden, and it's got a beautiful watering springs, flowing water. Again, you go back to how the estate agent tries to sell you the house, a house with a view, with beautiful gardens, and it's got fountains. Or you go into a hotel, it's a beautiful hotel with a beautiful lake over the ocean, the sea, the waterfall. This connection with water, in the same way how Allah Ta'ala connects us in this ayat, in ayat 12. Because again, we love beauty. It's to do with the human sight. So Allah Ta'ala is connecting. This is what you like in this world, and reach for it in Jannah. Remember that the Quran was revealed over 1400 years ago, but still the psyche, the human psyche, is still the same. Again, the Quran was revealed over 1400 years ago, but the psyche, the human psyche, is still the same. Okay, and this is how the desert Arabs were as well. Remember, these ayats were revealed to the desert Arabs. So when the focus on gardens within the desert, and the focus on waterfalls and springs and flowing water, imagine what that did to the Arabs, where the Quran was being revealed, how it affected their human side. Subhanallah. Next slide. fiha dusurun mawfu'a. Within it are couches raised high. Subhanallah. These couches raised very high. Go on to the next slide. And cups put in its place. Waqrabu, drinking cups, ready placed. Okay, and here the end of the word mawdu'a is placed down. So we've got drinking cups in the first part of the ayat, and then we've got placed down at the bottom. So here, these are lessons for today. That again, in hotels, how they advertise in hotels, you have a beautiful, not just your view, but within your own hotel accommodation. Okay, you've got your table, you have all your cups and wine glasses and whatever they have, but it's all there. In the same way, you'll go to an expensive restaurant and you pay the waiter just to keep serving you drinks and drinks and drinks. But the only thing is, at the end of the night, you have to pay for it. Whereas the glasses in Jannah will be placed there, and the glasses will be filled and filled and filled, but there's no cost. Subhanallah. That's an example of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is again focusing on cups from the wider view to now your room. Subhanallah. Go on to the next slide. And when we just talk about the cushions and the pillows, again in this ayat here, small pillows, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about rows and rows of pillows. Everywhere is relaxation, comfort, and ease. Okay, expensive rugs, very expensive rugs, spread out for the eye to see. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using the human sight. This is Jannah, high garden. Don't you want a high garden with beautiful views, with water and springs, laid the cups out all in front of you, that will be filled as soon as you drink, they will be continually filled, but the taste will be completely different, and rows of cushions. Imagine now the Bedouin tents where you just sit down and you rest your arm, but these would be rows and rows and rows of cushions, all lined up, expensive rugs spread out for you, just to relax. Subhanallah. Next slide. And carpet spread out. Okay, this word here, wazara, expensive rugs, mabathutha, spread out far and wide for the eye to see. So this is another deep lesson in the nazm of the Quran. It's we look at it here. Okay, we recite this ayat, but then you start to go into the ayat and how an image, two separate images come together. One is expensive rugs, and then the other is then spread out far and wide. And then you put them together and they form this beautiful pattern, this beautiful relationship. Next slide. So everything that we've covered so far is just a taster. We looked at sound of the heart, okay? And we looked again at word placement and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in these ayats that we've just gone through tries also to use ayats to connect to the human side. This is all in relation to the nazm of the Quran, how it uses the sound, visuals, in a way movie effects like it did the other week when we were talking about the war horses, wordplay that we'll cover tonight, the human psychology. to target the audience. Okay. And in relation to these ayats are in what surahs, and in relation are they in Meccan or Madani, and then you begin to then build up this beautiful picture of what's taking place. But it is, they are there to target the audience, to influence the inner sight. And it's all about listening. Because when the revelation came down, there was no book. Okay? The revelation came down to be heard. And so as the Quraysh, as those who were listening for the first time to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam recite the Quran, and they were Arabs, and they were Arabs of high poetry, and they would listen, and they would hear the rhyme, Al-Qariyah, Al-Qariyah, or other surahs, okay? Like in that surah tonight, from ayat 1 to 32, how each letter ends with the ha, and they would hear it, and hear it, and hear it, that continual rhyme, which is that anger, that sense of what's going to happen, and Jahannam there, suddenly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may then end that story or the image and go on to something completely different. And it's like a complete shockwave. And it is only those who are tuned in to the sound of the Quran will be able to understand that. So even those that weren't Muslim at the time, they would hear the Quran and they would sense something just changed there. Whereas we, as Muslims today, are in a state of ghafla, heedlessness. We should be able to just listen to the Quran and know what the image is, what that message is, the picture, okay? Just by hearing Quran, hearing the words, and then just by listening to the reciter, then to know that now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is now going on to a different message, a different lesson. How would we know that? Because that rhyming of the end of that letter, the end of that ayat has now changed. We should be able to do that. And the only way we can do that is to have a relationship with the Quran. But those that were listening to the Quran in the early days, they would hear this. Something changed there. What changed? Okay. And it would affect them so much. And that's why they kept wanting to hear this sound, this recitation that the Prophet was reciting. So with all of the ayats that we've covered tonight, and I say, oh, just a number. We looked at the letter Ha in Surah Al-Fatiha. We looked at the letter Ha, and we looked at the letter Sheen. So already we can now look towards the Quran and look in the ayats and start to look out for these particular letters. And yes, be able to understand them, but the lesson really for us is to be able to recognize them through sound. So let's make not just tafakkur on what we've learned tonight, but let's make tadabbur on all of these ayats that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given what people look for in every aspect of life that we've looked at tonight in relation to Al-Qariyah. To the day that we leave this world, we want the beauty, we want the good things. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is connecting us, is connecting into our human side. And this is how it's been through history. That high garden, those amazing views, beautiful scenery, waterfalls, springs, a nice home, nice garden, nice expensive glassware. We want nice drinks. We want nice beds. We want nice couches. What we want today was still what the Arabs of the desert wanted as well. And that as this revelation that came down was penetrating the Arabs' emotions as much as it should be penetrating ours. All of this, what we can get, in fact, in the dunya, is only temporary. Okay? And that's very important. And the lessons that we learn also between the husband and the wife. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really focuses on that sukoon, that the most important thing between the husband and the wife, apart from that desire, which only lasts for a short time, is that sukoon, that tranquility, that peace, and that harmony. Hence that mud on the word that, which is there to stretch, okay, emphasizing this is the most important thing that needs to be there in the marriage. And then when we look at the other ayats and the other surahs that we've covered tonight, how Jannah will be a place of beauty and peace. And we can relate it to how society is today. It's not at peace. Okay? There's no tranquility. In marriages, there's no tranquility. And we can only explore all of this by taking a back seat and looking at everything from a holistic perspective through the tadabbur. Okay? And we'll continue with these week after week, week after week. But it's all very importantly connecting to the realities of energy, sound, tuning, okay, which is the resonance and vibration, which is all connecting us to Al-Kitab al-Kawn, the book of nature, which is embedded in the Quran, which is introducing us to and enables us to understand the whole language of nature, which is a design language, which is based on energy, sound, and attunement. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continually asks us to ponder and reflect on all of creation, making the zikr, praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But all of this praise is based on energy, sound, and attunement. And we can only see these attributes, this beautiful creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because of the sound and the vibration. High frequency, low frequency. And how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses high frequency in these ayats tonight and low frequency. Any questions? بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان في خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام.